So there's a epidemic of loneliness among young people, mostly males, from what I'm told, from what I've been asked here in the channel threads, to share something about it. So with no real plan, I've just opened myself up to cooperate with the Creator, use me to express something valuable or useful. So let's see. I can I can identify why people are lonely. There's a whole bunch of reasons, all to do with the divisions, and even though humanity has tried to become more humane, more civilized, more intelligent, more sensitive, more compassionate in a lot of ways, the forces that control the narratives and have the mass influence over society have long been hard at work at creating as much division as possible. They've accelerated that because they're afraid of people waking up and uniting. If you look at the things that program people's thinking into a worldview, you see these big heads of the same beast, really. It can be government or authority. It's always some sort of authority, but some of it's religion, authority done in the name of God, but with crooked agendas and foolishness from men. Some of it's the executive authority of government and country and patriotism, and these divisions, these lines and boundaries drawn all throughout the planet to say us versus them, us or them, to not see humanity as one. People in touch with a higher spiritual truth have long understood that all people, all animals, all living things, even all non-living things, are all coming from the same source. So in truth, in actual truth, there isn't any division. Therefore, all these divisions you see everyone and you find yourself struggling with, they're all artificial. They're all counterfeits to truth. Genders are divided, races are divided, economic classes are divided, nationalities are divided, lifestyle belief systems are divided. People are divided on many things. And I do understand that when you have certain morals or ethics or principles that you live by and others ask you to violate those, you have to make your stand and say no. So a lot of things get into sort of a tricky territory where how do we all unite and be one if others are insisting I do things that I know are wrong? However, most of these divisions and this loneliness the young people ask me about, especially at a young age, these things could be corrected more easily because you're less calcified into a certain rigid, structural, machine-like worldview that very much limits you and puts you in a box where you're no longer open to change, you're no longer open to growth, you're no longer open to questioning the box you're stuck in. So for young people, and I am not saying throw caution to the wind, there are plenty of dangers in the world, but in a reasonable manner, in a sensible manner, I think young people should aim to be leaders in communication with each other, to restore a form of unity, or maybe establish it. If you've never seen it before, you can't really call it restoring it, but to establish common ground and connection. And ultimately, this is going to force or cause people to have to rewrite, to question, to ponder, and to recreate their life philosophy, their root life philosophy. Humans have been trained to be distracted while programmed with root philosophies that create division and conflict, and to not even be able to accurately assess their own root philosophy of life. But if you ask yourself the right questions and you actually work with it, you'll see how you yourself are participating in divisions. And this is good. It's a healthy practice to do so. And when you see you're limited in who you're willing to communicate with, or who you trust enough, or who you would try to form friendships or meaningful bonds with, you can ask yourself good and honest, decent questions about why, and try to accurately assess what's a reasonable method to build relationships, and how you can be a leader. Because if everybody's going to keep looking to the authorities to fix it for them, and you haven't faced the simple fact yet that the authorities are the most corrupt people on the planet, and they always have been. And I'm going to keep saying this until people start to catch on. This is not a new phenomenon. Just because certain things are thrown in front of the public eye's face to distract them from other nefarious plots, and they suddenly see the evil that runs things, and they think it's something new. These things are older than recorded history, much older. The people that crave power and control and influence to control the narrative of how all the other people on the planet think are inherently willing to do whatever evil it takes to do so, because it's evil in general to begin with. The idea that you can and should control the way other people think is a simple, plain violation of free will. And if God, the Creator, doesn't violate people's free will, what right do people have to violate people's free will? So when you question these things, you realize that these divisions are in place so that the populace who isn't in control of the narratives and isn't in control of the laws and the regulations that are dominating and oppressing the planet, these divisions are to keep you from uniting. These divisions are to keep you from seeing the divine in each other and recognizing each other truly as part of the same thing, so you're not afraid of each other anymore. And you're not in competition with each other anymore. And you're not trying to one-up each other, look better at someone else's expense. Service to self is the inherently dark path. And even well-meaning people are taught to live on this dark path. They're taught things like it's a dog-eat-dog world. It's only a dog-eat-dog world if people keep believing that and participating in it. That is a voluntary thing. Whether you ever thought about it consciously or not, it's only a dog-eat-dog world if people go along with things like that. That creates dystopia, whereas unity creates utopia. How do I know when nobody's seen such a thing? I have seen such a thing. It's an inner vision. It's a divine gift to be able to see possibilities that you haven't actually seen during your lifetime in this world. So it's going to take leaders. That's my advice to young people that feel lonely. Instead of waiting for somebody to come rescue you from your loneliness, understand that they're all doing the same thing. There needs to be leaders. Not to call people sheep, but just as a parable. If the sheep are scattered everywhere, somebody has to be a shepherd to bring them together. Somebody has to stop being a sheep and start being a shepherd. And it's not easy because people have triggers and trauma and a bunch of conflicting, dysfunctional beliefs that may make life harder. This is why the world needs leaders in how to correct these things and fix them. Take away these limits and these lies that have kept humanity very divided in a much deeper and harder struggle than they need to be for a very long time. When you put your heart first, when you learn to open your heart center and be guided from the center instead of your head, instead of your mind, what they call mind, which is like an ivory tower of ego and superiority or inferiority. Either way, if you let your heart lead, if you make it the leader in your life, you can see the power of everyone being in it for each other. How everyone on the whole planet would be thriving with life abundantly beyond your wildest current imagining. If people were simply in it for each other, if they understood this principle, they trusted it and they committed to it. Not easy, but nothing good is easy. So if you want meaningful relationships, and you're starting out from a world where that seems very difficult, you shouldn't be looking for easy. You should be looking for value. If good relationships were easy, they'd be taken for granted, they'd be lost anyway. So then they wouldn't really be that good because the recognition wouldn't be there. The gratitude wouldn't be there. We'd all be ingrates to what good relationships are. But because in the current context of time, space on planet Earth, they're so difficult, that means they're of great value to cultivate. Now, I will say this, loneliness is a profoundly valuable time to invest in the most important relationship you have. The relationship with the only thing that really exists and what all this is coming from and always will be. That which always was and always will be. The divine one of perfection that all life comes from. When you're lonely, you should cultivate a great seeking and an understanding to where you'll never be lonely again. Personally, I'm not lonely. I was never lonely when I spent time alone. I remember having friends that would get insulted by this because I would forget to call them or visit them for who knows how many months because I wasn't even paying attention to time. Because I'm not lonely when I'm alone, because I'm not alone. I'm in the presence of all sorts of divine intelligence and consciousness, and it's a very busy, rich, learning, creative atmosphere for me. But after having accidentally hurt the feelings of friends various times that way, I had to start to question, why is it they feel so lonely when they're not in the presence of other human beings? And these were also creative people, so it wasn't a lack of creativity, it wasn't a lack of interests or hobbies or talents or pursuits. It was just simple loneliness for human presence. Now, there's a truth in this. The fact that people feel lonely when they're away from people, and yet they've been trained with so many dysfunctional ideas about each other that they can't stand being around each other either. The truth about the loneliness away from people is because the divine does live in people. Not in their ego narratives, not in their annoying habits, not in the things that trigger each other. It's beyond all that. It's deeper than all that. And what you're sensing and what you're missing when you feel lonely is that divine spark of the Creator in another. But the interesting thing is, you actually have unlimited access to that infinite source all the time. But it's something that you can only cultivate if you prioritize it. Yeshua ben Yosef used to go around healing anybody who was open to healing, showing unconditional love and healing to anyone. And after the crowds would beg for this and that, and he'd spend long hours, days, never resting, never eating, just healing, healing, healing everyone. Sometimes he would tell his apostles, wait here, I need some time alone. And he'd go meditate and pray and recover, being solely in God's presence, recharging that way. So whether you find, well, I would encourage you while you're feeling lonely to work on the most important relationship, the only eternal one you really have. Because we're all going to change form. This person you see here with his name and his appearance and his social security number and whatever labels have been assigned to him, he's a temporary thing. And so are you, what you think is you. We'll all be changing form over and over because the ultimate creator is formless. So being attached to form makes you think that you're lonely when you're not around other forms that you recognize. And you're not recognizing that the formless is everywhere. It's in you, it's outside of you, it's here. It's super conscious. You couldn't even generate a thought or have a heartbeat or breathe air or anything without it. It's the animating force in all things, even things that hate it and try to fight it to their own peril, become living death in darkness. It is the animating force of all things. So you can only truly be lonely if you've made yourself or allowed yourself to be unaware of your oneness with the ultimate creative source of all things. And that is what this world does to people. Various degrees and types of amnesia, not remembering or knowing what you really are. But you can cultivate it, you can grab it. You can take the kingdom of heaven by the tail and pull it to you and put it within you. And you're going to need righteousness if you're going to create real lasting relationships with others that don't backfire. And this means all parties involved, because if one person is honoring the other's free will, but the other is not, it's going to become a dysfunctional relationship. Possessive relationships where you try to control someone else to fulfill you and you use and manipulate them, it's a form of vampirism. And it's all too common in this world. Very, very common, because people have forgotten what real love feels like, looks like, and expresses like. And unless they discover that, they tend to choke out the very relationships they're trying so hard to hold on to. And eventually you push away the very people that you made yourself believe you had to have close to you. And there's an important lesson in that. It's actually a gift, even though it's hard. It's only a gift, though, if you open the gift, if you look at what's in it and you learn from it and you take it out and you apply it. How can people be lonely in crowds, for example? How can people go to these public things where there's lots of activity and excitement and action and it be entirely lonely still? There's no depth in those activities. They're distractions. I do submit to you that cultivating an authentic relationship with the source, with God, with the Creator, with the One, with the Great Spirit, is the very best and the most important and the only way to really learn what relationship even is. To learn it the right way. There's more going on in the silence than there is in all the noise. The best relationships in my life often involve long times of silence, because there's no need to force words. There's a richness in each other's presence. It's the same way with the Creator. Rather than chanting and doing rituals and begging and talking and talking, and talking is fine, but there's more going on in the peace and the stillness and the silence than there is in all the noise of this world put together. There's more energy in one tiny molecular thing I can't even see right in front of my face right now than people think there is in the entire universe. It's limitless. It's infinite consciousness. And it's expressed itself in all these different forms that don't know who they are. But if you meditate on that and develop an acceptance, and it changes your root philosophy of life and your root awareness of what life is, you'll see people different. And you'll become the source of something you're looking for, which is the only answer. Otherwise, you're trying to vampire it from someone else. And in a world where everyone's been taught not to be the source of anything and to try to take it from someone else, everyone's tired of being vampired by each other. Everyone's tired of having their life sucked dry by someone else. So this is how you can have most of the world's populace crammed into these artificial environments called cities, stuck talking to each other, interacting with each other, sitting in each other's presence for most of the hours of the day in their lives, and everyone's still completely lonely. So obviously physical presence isn't what fixes loneliness. This is why a relationship with the ultimate non-physical presence is the richest relationship there is. And yes, all physical things come from it too, but they do the least accurate job of reflecting it because they're in the lowest vibratory state, in the least conscious state. Become the source of what you're looking for. Provide for others what would heal their loneliness, and you'll heal your own in the process somewhere along the line, because you're becoming the source of what is missing. You're becoming the conduit of what needs to happen here. In a world where human beings have taught themselves and conjured up everything to believe and been taught and brainwashed to believe every possible thing to stop them from being the hands and the hearts and the eyes of the living Creator, the only solution to every problem in this planet and this world is that they do exactly that. Become the voluntary, aligned hands and eyes and hearts of the Creator, which is what they're actually designed and capable of being. Designed for and capable of being. That's you. That's us. And of course, ironically, when you no longer feel lonely anymore, that's when it'll be easy to have probably more external relationships with humans than you even want. But that's good. These are good challenges to have. When you do the inner work and make the change and become the source of a thing, you'll see the way the outer world rearranges itself around you. There's an invisible magnetism. It's not really affected so much by time and distance as you might think. That determines who you meet and when and why. There's a reason you feel lonely right now, whether you're around people or not. The solution is within you. It's not some other person that's going to fix it for you. Whatever's in that other person that you imagine fixing it for you is also within you. And that person doesn't know any better than you right now how to be the source of it. That's why it's not happening. So if loneliness is your focus and you're looking for a solution, be the solution and bring that to someone else lonely. Be the solution and bring it to someone else. Obviously, this doesn't guarantee that that other person necessarily reciprocates the same thing. And sometimes you may try this on someone who's not compatible. And if you realize that, just move on. There's billions of people in the world. There's no point kicking a dead horse if something's going nowhere. But again, if you do become the source of what fulfills that illusion, that non-truth people are experiencing called loneliness, not only will you not be lonely anymore, but some others will discover through what you've become, the kind of light you've become, that they don't have to be lonely anymore either, whether they're in your presence or not. And this starts correcting what's been taken away. The enemy, anything that works against the truth, anything that works against the actual principles of the Creator and what life is, always comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and lie and deceive, twist things, and distort things. So when there's a lack of something, when you're feeling lonely, it's a lie. It's a lie that you're suffering from, and you have to become the truth that fixes the lie. If you love God, if you love Creator, if you love Source, the great all, with all that you have, which is only natural if there weren't so many distractions and false beliefs stopping you from doing it, and you love your neighbor as yourself, because they're from the same thing. So again, it's only natural if there weren't so many distractions and false beliefs and lies stopping you from doing it. It's like a holistic repair for the whole thing, and everything just fixes itself. If you pay attention to the things you've been taught and the things you've absorbed in the world, you'll realize they're all very divisive, and they're divisive in a way that causes disunity, disharmony, one against the other, like a giant autoimmune disease for all of humanity. So the organism destroys itself by thinking that the different cells of the same organism are something else and foreign. The body destroys itself. A body of true unity among all of humanity would be a body of Christ. Christ level consciousness, all one, all is one. You are the sons and daughters of God. You're meant to work great works. You're meant to bear great fruit. You're meant to be the light bearers of this creation that cultivate it and enrich it instead of destroying and consuming it like vampires. But as long as the polarities are flipped negative and dark due to the things you're conditioned to believe and participate in, loneliness is just one of the many, many illusions permeating this distortion. Do not go into relationships looking to take something to fill yourself from others. You'll be doing a disservice to the others, and it's not going to work out in anybody's best interest, because that is rooted in a fear. That is rooted in a fear that you don't have something you need within you and you have to take it from someone else. That is rooted in a fear that you're not connected to the source, so you have to vampire life or a satisfaction of some kind out of another person. This is precisely why most relationships don't work out very fruitfully on this planet. It's not because many of you aren't well-meaning, it's because you've been taught all the wrong principles that don't actually work. They violate life. They violate the principles of truth, and therefore you're violating yourself and the other, and the relationship can't flourish. But if you go into any relationship as the source of whatever it is you're looking for, automatically you'll have it. Possibly the other will be receptive to it, and then where two hearts are both in it to give to the other, it becomes much more than 1+1. It multiplies. And this is how a fewer number of those who awaken and become the light that they're meant to be can transform this whole mess that's killing itself that most have given up on in their apathy. This is a form of bearing fruit. Fix the loneliness within you. Concentrate and dedicate yourself to the realization of your oneness with a truly great source, the nature of which has only ever been shown fully accurately by one man, but then false images have been made out of him and false teachings. So at this point, rather than trying to understand what that means through another, the most direct path is most likely best. But you have to believe that you're part of that one. You have to really believe it. And if you don't really believe it, you can ask for the courage and the faith to believe it. Ask simply from your heart and mean it. Cultivate the light and consciousness and unconditional love and power of the infinite one within you. Basically, you're just taking on more of the essence of what you are, enough to become more conscious and more effective in fixing things like loneliness and many other challenges that are hurting people, killing animals, killing all the life forms on the planet. There's the way of life and the way of death, and it applies to everything you do, every thought and action, including relationships. Be the source of what you're looking for. Don't be a vampire of what you think you're looking for. That's how it got this bad. I love you and I believe you can because I know you can. Over and out for now.